what was your inspiration for joining and practicing gamification?
Student, actually, that's a story I've told several times, because that's how I started this. It was really interesting how this is one, when you're a teacher, there are some students that just shine, and there are some of them, and I'm not saying that they shine because of their I don't know, they're the brightest or most the smartest or everything. They have something very special. You can see the potential like building up, and they're about to explode and everything. And he came up to me and he said, "Hey guys, well, I know how to fix education." And I'm like, "Hey, do you know how to fix education?" And he said, "Yeah, gamification. Look for it." And he left the room. Um, for you to understand the relationship we had with this student, uh, I borrowed from him Scott Pilgrim. I mean, he's the kind of geek that you would be geeking out with in any amount of subjects. He's an amazing human being, and our interests actually matched pretty well. And when he said that, I was like, "What's that?" So I went online and I watched a video on gamification by what's the name? Extra Credits. It's these guys that they make these funny animations, and they've been doing a lot of gamification lately, and a lot of explanation and game design stuff like that for the past forever. And I was like, what is going on? And then I saw the next video they were suggesting, which was Did I Stop from Just Shell? And then I went online to gamification.com, which was a website I believe it was owned by Rayat Pafaria, and before it was Punchable built or something like that. And then I went into it and I found a couple more videos and I found Reality is Broken. It took me about an hour of my life, and that very moment, I mean, I switched. I said, okay, out with everything. This is my life now. I didn't want to do anything else because I've been a geek for all my life, and I've enjoyed being a geek for my life. I'm very happy that I can say, yeah, I have a 74.9% in the geek test. I love all the subjects. I love science fiction. I love science, and I love everything. And I've always said that a geek is someone who becomes passionate about any subject, not just uh, comics or that stuff. It's wrong. I mean, chefs are geeks on their own subjects, and doctors are geeks on their own subject. Anyone who will be passionate about it. And I've always wanted to know why we couldn't play life as we would play Final Fantasy. I said I was so disengaged from many things in my life until I got out of school. So this kid comes to me. I think he was 16 years old back then, and he says this to me, and I'm like, "What just happened?" And this blew my mind, and that's how it got started. And after a couple of videos, I just started buying books and books and books and books. And then 3 years later, 2 years later, in 2013, I went to my first G Summit in San Francisco. I met Kevin Werbach, I met Gabe Sickerman, I met everybody, and then I started like meeting everybody. The next year I went back, I met my business partner there. And the next year I went to the Gamification World Congress, and that's how I just clawed my way into the community, and I started meeting every author, and I started asking for suggestions and examples, everything. And I built Blue Rabbit in the process, which is something that we may discuss later.
And then Blue Rabbit happened.
Blue Rabbit happened as a consequence because I wanted to gamify my classes. I just I didn't expect Blue Rabbit to exist. I just wanted to gamify my class. I started using paper, which you can imagine the chaos of calculating experience points and trying to keep control of for the progression of 20 players. I started with a group. Oh, it wasn't 20 players. That group had 14 students only, and it was impossible. Honestly, I just tried to keep up and I couldn't. Then I passed to Excel, and it wasn't working. And then I passed into a blog, and I still had to check everything on the email. So I ended up building on a platform where everything could be together and process everything for me. And here we are, 7 years later.
Fantastic. And I think I've also followed Blue Rabbit for quite some time now, and what you are doing in terms of certifications, in terms of content you are putting in. I think the interesting part which I was more interested is to understand is often gamification designers are have a different view of the world, and they also understand and implement things together. So while in the back of the head you understanding what the customer probably wants, and you're also trying to implement at the same time exactly what you mentioned. You started off with pen and paper, scribbled up, and finally end up building a platform. Right. So how difficult is to switch your mind from a designer role to a user role, because they're two different personalities altogether.
Okay, so one of the things that I've always thought about gamification platforms is that they are insanely complicated. And as a gamification designer, I get into them and I understand everything right away. I know what the creating this specific set of points means, or because they do everything in formula thinking. So it's not that they're telling you, here are your experience points. They're telling you, okay, so you have to create a type of points that are going to be used to measure progression of the players. And people don't know what those kind of points are. So I said, okay, no, if we build a platform for teachers, it has to have all the process and all the game design solved for them, and they just have to focus on the narrative. They just have to focus on maybe making the challenges and not worrying about what level progression is, how, because the models of level progression, it's kind of like understanding the financial world, and it's absolutely hard for anyone who hasn't started into this. So um, playing this role of how the user will use it, how I would use it, uh, the best way to do it is test it. To be honest, you have to let it go and ask people and have people answer. Yeah, I didn't like it. I can use it. And all you have to do the entire time is, regardless of your own knowledge, you have to always think, is this actually going to be easy? And that's one of the struggles I'm running into right now, as I just built a new feature into Blue Rabbit, which allows you to create steps and different, how would I say, like it's called a boss fight. So you create a quest, and it leads into different steps, kind of like choose your own adventure, but you guide them into this, and unless you follow this specific path and these specific things, you will not overcome the challenge. Um, so building into it, I realized that it's really complex for the user to design it. So we started just, okay, so what chunks of code can we just pre-code for them, and they just have to click buttons and insert them, instead of having them think at all in any of those ways. So we're working into those kind of things. Seriously, building any gamification, so a gamified environment should not be hard for a teacher who's not a gamification expert. It should be hard for us. That's our job, not them.
Absolutely. So having said that, Bernardo, often and gamification is often treated as a mode of a human-computer interaction. We're doing that. So a lot of times, educators, even for that matter, companies, they stress a lot upon developing good technologies. Technologically, they should be very, very sound, but they miss out on the human element in the HCI, human-computer interaction. What, and how much role is humans playing in making the entire process successful, not successful, or whatever for that matter?
Oh, to answer that, let me give you an example. Blue Rabbit is not a tool that will um, substitute a teacher. Blue Rabbit is a tool that will superpower a teacher. So
Right.
what we do not like to, I mean, you can use it, and it works if you want to use it as an e-learning platform. But it's not the same thing. It's a completely different thing. What we want is people to understand that gamification is about people. You need the teacher in the classroom superpowering the students, telling them, hey guys, this is the story, look at this. We all love good stories, we all love adventures, we all love to feel that we are the heroes of any story. So if the teacher wants to do that, Blue Rabbit is a tool that will help them do it, not the other way around. It's not that, okay, you take Blue Rabbit and then you change your classroom. It's the other way around. You already have to be wanting to do that. So the human is the most important component of Blue Rabbit. The people behind on the other side of the screen, they do have even, I mean, we're just literally, Blue Rabbit just counts points and tells you, okay, this is a challenge, do it. But it's not doing anything for the player. It's not like many of those other gamification platforms out there that you kind of like pre-program an insane amount of things, and then the player comes in, clicks something, and then 1,000 billion points process everything. No, 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 no. You need to understand that what we're trying to do is uh, increase the participation, increase the engagement between players and the teacher into into a new environment to be superpowered into this little bubble of knowledge or learning. And obviously, you will use points and counts and everything for that. But the player chooses what he wants to do. This is not a pre-made layout where you have to follow every single step. This is a choose your own adventure kind of setting where you have so many options and so many ways of reaching the goal that the teacher really is just an spectator, and it's just putting things out there for them. So I think that the more humans interact with each other, the better. In gamification, we always work with the four neurotransmitters, right? So one of them is serotonin, and serotonin actually builds up once you start creating meaningful relationships. And we know that relationships is one of the first components of RAM. So it's insane not to think about the connection that the users need to create before anything else. I mean, the points and the badges and the awards and anything that we give them, it's amazing. But if they are not actually using these four core elements, and they're not helping their own brains to develop these and increase the amount of these neurotransmitters to develop learning and to develop growth, then what's the point?
Exactly. Absolutely. And every mind is different. After a point in time, I'm sure, Fernando, you would have also realized that while you are designing a product, there are different demands, and you need to probably customize a lot of things at times, depending on what is what is the desired output. So, how difficult is to customize things at times?
Well, it will depend a little bit on the client, but um, gamification is something that has to be customized by culture, by industry, by client, and by audience. All the factors around it have to customize. But the customization does not have to go directly into the platform itself. It has to go into the content. And if you're not customizing the content, then what are you doing? I mean, come on. For example, when I gamify GameCon, it's an audience of gamification experts. So if I talk about gamification, or not even experts, but people interested in gamification. So if I say a concept or a term or something, I expect them to understand it. But if then I go to a sales event with one of our clients, then you have to make sure that everything is tailored for them. The name of the prices, the name of the badges, the name of the level ups, everything around it, it has to be. But it's content what should be customized. The platform in its own, Blue Rabbit can be customized background, the icons, the colors, and all that stuff. That's easy. That's an easy part of your design that should not represent any issues at all. But um, what a lot of clients tend to think is that they kind of, if they're buying the platform, then the platform is just a, I don't know how to say, like, oh, so it's all the content, it's pre-built, it's pre-made. And this is a challenge that we've been facing against the educational environment, where most of the time the teachers expect the content pre-built for them. So I just have to open up and add a new course, and like, no, we want you to do it. So we are finding a balance between both worlds, where we could kind of like build some challenges in the exercise for several classes, and get them jump started into what they should be doing. That's customizing their own experiences. Gamification is not something you can do without customization, period. It's so specific because you have, in the words of Andrea Kuchevsky, which I just love her a lot, if you're not spending the majority of the time at the beginning of a project identifying what motivates your audience, you're doing it wrong. So
Absolutely.
the thing is that every audience is absolutely different. So it doesn't matter how much you want to try it, you have to customize it for every audience. This happened to me in my classes. I thought that from one semester to the next, I could repeat the exact same thing. And then you had this amazingly motivated group with these exercises. And then I switched to the next one and I'm going to do the same thing. And they were all demotivated. We're like, what's going on? And I learned the hard way that you have to customize every experience. You have to tailor it. You have to change the story a little bit. You have to fix this thing. You have to add this other thing. It's not like you will have to rebuild and reinvent the wheel, but you do have to tweak it and make sure that it's adapting to the right audience.
Absolutely. So having said that, Fernando, I'm sure did you have any experiences where you could change the habits of students using your using the platform? Because that is something deep in roots. Like I might be engaging you for a semester, fantastic, great, but can I really change my perception towards how I look at things, or so on and so forth?
Okay, so um, it's very interesting. I mean, I would have to take a look into some of the surveys, exit surveys from some of the classes, some of the comments that they wrote in my yearbooks. But um, I do believe that many of my students changed the way they learned. Um, about 3 to 4 weeks after they started the course with us. Once they started the course, I would tell them there's no grades here. I will not leave any homework and everything. They were like, what's going on? You will get paid and you will have to use that money to buy your grade, or you will level up, and then the level up will gain. What's the max level up? Whatever the max level up in the class is. So whoever gets the highest level, they put the bar up. And they were like, what's going on here? So after a couple of weeks, when they actually got a hang of it, they were competing against each other and collaborating with each other to raise the bar. And they would say, why can't all classes be like this? Why can't you just simply stop feeling judged about it? They change the perception about a lot of things. Now, if you're talking about a little bit more on the science of how the learning improved, um, unfortunately, I did not have an MRI machine, so I could measure the amount of neural connections between a player before and after my classes, which at the end would be moot because you cannot measure learning. It's absolutely impossible. You cannot say that because they took a class with a great teacher, they learned, because maybe they just were in the best mood that day. So it's impossible to measure how much a person has learned because of the teacher. But what I can tell you is that uh, the increase in engagement in participation in my class went from 6 to 8 projects a semester to maybe 40. They would just improve that much. They would do that much work in the same amount of time, and the quality of the work was 1,000 times better. And the amounts of attempts and challenge and times they wanted to do things was completely off the bounds. They would just do and do and do and do and do. And I think that the most important mindset that was able to change is you can try as many times you want. You don't have to feel judged because of that. You just have to go for it, and
Hmm.
we have some beautiful numbers out of it.
Fantastic. But on the so while this is all about what you're doing exactly at university level, at your classroom level, but I'm sure there might be some experiences when you would have planned gamification exercises and it has not worked out.
Yeah, especially at the beginning. It
Yeah.
was my first kind of like um, bucket of really cold water was when I thought, okay, I'm just gonna do this and I'm gonna just release it to the wild. And then uh, within 6 weeks, the players had eaten up all the content. That moment was scary because it was like, okay, so I couldn't keep up building exercises, trying to define the points and trying to catch up with them. I didn't have Blue Rabbit back then, so I wasn't able to just create 25 more challenges at the minute, and they were demanding content. So it was not unsuccessful. It was actually a pretty good semester, but at the same time, it was very challenging, and I was just, oh my God, this I just really this time I just made it. I just messed up big this time. So yeah, at the very beginning, especially, well, I remember that with our first client outside the educational environment, I was also very scared. And the very first day, you could feel the bar of engagement like going up and down really fast. So it required a lot of tweaking and a lot of participation, a lot of work on those on that day. Um, I ended up sleeping at 4 a.m., waking up at 7, working the entire day again, just to make sure that the content was valuable for the players the next day. And at the beginning, especially, this is something that I always tell to others who are starting in gamification: don't be afraid. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be simple, but you're going to be able to do it. You just have to try it. Once you tried it the first 1 or 2 or 3 times, the next exercise that or the next challenge you're going to build is going to come up easily to you. So just try it a little bit. Just push yourself a little into outside of that comfort zone. I promise you, the reward is worth every tear that you think that you are going to pour, because you're not actually going to be powerless. You're going to be powerful. You're going to be able to change things. You become the god of your own universe. You can do whatever you want. You can reshape it as you want. So just try it once. I promise you, it's not going to be a catastrophe or anything. It's going to be an absolute success.
Fantastic. And so this brings us to the next section of our discussion, and this is largely on the lighter mode of what you do and how do you do. And this is not related to what your work profile is. This is like knowing you as a person. And I can see
Okay.
that gaming console right there at the back, and that's my next question. In fact, is there any favorite game which you really play and you has been with you for a very long time? There are always some favorites.
Okay, so there is one game that I play every single day. I play it several times a day, and it's called chess. I
Wow.
love
Okay.
chess. I've been playing chess for quite a while. I'm not that good though, because I haven't done my own part of studying. I'm busy studying gamification. But the thing is, the game of chess is the one thing that has been super consistent in my life. However, that being said, in terms of video games, there are many games that I've played many times. Final Fantasy VIII was a game that I played maybe, I'm going to say, 10 times, maybe 12 times. It's a 100, I mean, we're talking about a 120-hour game that I played for 10 times or maybe 12 times. I mean, that's a lot of hours in one game.
Lot of art.
Um, Chrono Cross is another one, Chrono Trigger. I could list you at least, I mean, maybe Castlevania Symphony of the Night, maybe that's the game that has the most hours of my life invested into it. But uh, I mean, the things that now that I come to think about it, I'm no longer a small child. At 38 years, maybe I've spent the past, I'm going to say, 16, 18 years of my life playing games. Uh, I really dedicated a lot of my time into it, and it actually builds up. And when you start looking at Blue Rabbit at kind of like at the back end, and kind of like a little bit on the deep side of it, and then you start paying a little bit of attention on the games I played. Like, okay, he does this and that. I also love playing Dungeons and Dragons, tabletop games. That also has been with me for the past almost 20 years now. So
Wow.
yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah.
So, having said that, while games obviously are a source of inspiration for someone like you, I'm sure there will be people, there will be sources, there will be activities which also inspire you. Do you love to read? Do you love to spend some time of your work? And if yes, what do you do?
Well, this past year has been, I'm going to say, just a little bit complicated. Um,
Okay.
Most of the time, in the little free time that we get, I'm reading a couple of new books that I just got. Kind of like every year, I rebuild my. I purchase around 10 books, and I always get them done throughout the year. Uh, and with a new daughter, she's 8 months old, so pretty much all of her time is spent into taking care of her. But right now, that's her position. But um, on other times, I would when we still lived in Mexico, I would go out climbing at least 3 times a week, and I would come back some days and play some video games and just kind of like uh, also, in our free time, my wife and I love to travel, so we would travel a lot back in the day. So yeah, that's more or less where I spend my non-gamification hours.
Great, and congratulations for your for the new game and the new lifetime game. I would say you would keep playing, and I'm sure that's the best source of entertainment. I can guarantee that. I mean, both me and Manish are experiencing the same phase. So my daughter is 2. Manish's son is 1.5 years, I think. So I mean, you're also in the same mode of when you're not doing work. I think we are only playing.
Yeah.
So that's about it. Okay. So would you recommend any readings, any certifications, any lectures, courses for someone who wants to enter this field of gamification? Anything, because
Okay.
there are a lot of people who want to enter this, but they're directionless.
Okay. So in terms of books, I would say Gamification by Design by Gabe Sickerman, For the Win from Kevin Werbeck are my first two to-go books. This is the first two things you have to read. Reality is Broken is an amazing book, but reading that maybe a little um, dense for some readers. You do have to be a little bit more engaged with the um, gaming or excited about gamification before you can go through all that data. I love it and I enjoyed it, but I know that some people won't go through it. And about new books, I'm reading this one called Indistractable. Which honestly I was impressed. I know Nira Yal from reading Hooked. Hooked is a very good book too. You can also get a good glimpse of how to create engagement loops. But this one is far better. I would say that I'm enjoying this one a lot more. So the first two books I said, they're this long. I mean, it's really maybe less than 100 pages, and they're gonna get you started. You're gonna understand pretty much anything you need to understand. There are a couple of courses out there that you could take, but uh, really, you have to do what Jesse Shell says. Um, Stand up straight, and you have to repeat these 5 words. I am a game designer. And once you do that, you are now a game designer. Congratulations, you just graduated. And then what does a game designer do? Well, they design games. So start playing games, start reading these 2, 3 books that are going to give you a couple of guides on how to start it. And it's going to be a lot easier afterwards. Um, Having theory, all the theory in the back of your head, it's going to start working only if you get working. It doesn't matter. You can have an encyclopedia back in your head, and if you don't use that, it's not gonna work. So start doing it, and I promise it's gonna be. Um, once you get a hang of it, you're gonna want to read another book, and you're gonna want to read another thing, and you're gonna want to do. And don't think that you're gonna become a master in a matter of weeks. This is a process. All the gamification experts I know out there now have been working this for maybe 10 years now. So it takes a long time to become a master at something, and it's easy because there's a lot of information, but at the same time you really have to try it and test it and use it. If you don't want to become an expert, if you're not looking for that, but you're looking to use it, I would suggest joining a couple of Facebook groups if you're a teacher or you're someone in the educational environment, and ask for suggestions on how to do stuff. And they will give you some examples of things that are already solved, and this will get you into the right path to finish it. So it becomes a lot easier when you get help from everybody else. The community in gamification is absolutely generous. We share everything. We want everything for everybody. So you just have to go and ask. Everyone is going to be more than happy to help you.
Absolutely. And this brings us to the last section, which is I promised this is a game, and this is like an interesting game which we are trying to pull in. So
Okay.
this is like a rapid fire round when I do what we're doing, and the rules are pretty simple. I'll say a word, and you have to answer me with one word which comes to your mind immediately, like as soon as possible.
Okay.
Okay. So let me know once you're ready. If you're ready, we can start.
Okay, let's try it.
That's right. Okay. So there are, I think, a dozen words roughly wherein I'll shoot and I would immediately look for a response. So the first word is learn,
Game.
play,
Fun.
family,
Daughter.
challenge,
Game.
enjoyment,
Oh, I don't know. There were too many words in there.
behavior,
Which one?
behavior,
Neurotransmitters.
transformation,
Behavior.
game,
Best thing ever.
friends,
RPGs.
boredom,
Necessary.
travel,
Wife.
competition,
Collaboration.
design,
Game.
and happiness.
Fun.
Woo! Great. Thanks for Bernardo. This was good. This was fantastic. I think you took slight bit of more time, but that's okay. That's absolutely fine. It's and trust me, I before you talked about travel. Travel was always this was not a cooked up thing. The entire script was almost ready with what we wanted to ask. But I think I'm sure there's a lot we have known about you. There's not to know about what you're doing at Blue Rabbit. There's a lot we have learned about how and why people should should think in the right manner while they approach gamification as a learning platform. Because there are still a lot of misconceptions. That's exactly what me and Manish are trying to do at this platform. People read books, people watch videos. There are material available. There is both audio visual content available, but a lot of times people often miss out on this practitioner viewpoint of what is happening at the back end. So that's the primary reason why we are trying to integrate all the aspects together, and that's why it's gamification for all. So it will be for all, and it will always remain for all. It's not only for an exclusive society part. It's only for not for companies, not for students. It has to be inclusive as possible.
Exactly.
Over to you, Manish. I'm done with my set of questions.
Thank you, Abhishek. I have only one question. The question is, how do you see the future of gamification, and what could be the factors that would drive gamification in future?
Wow. I do know, but I also do hope that the future of gamification will be uh, a completely gamified, um, at least a completely gamified educational system in the world. That I know because of the tendencies that you can see from the leading education countries, sorry, the countries leading in education technology, let's say, they are trending a lot into what looks a lot like gamification. Not exactly in the game-like way, but in the game full way. where they are actually testing consistently how the players will um, uh, behave in a more playful environment rather than in a closed, encased, pay attention, shut up, and look at the front environment. Everybody's working towards this, and they have been doing. I started looking at this in 2014, so it's been already working and cooking, and COVID pushed a little bit more into getting technology into play and getting people into understanding that they should not be playing this way. So I do see that the world is shifting into a more gameful type of life. Uh, Not necessarily in I don't want you to think that, oh, he thinks that everything's going to be measured and connected like the Internet of Things. Yeah, that technology is going to work, but there's going to be people actually worrying about the content of everything towards that direction, saying, okay, so my company will have to keep the players engaged like this. The employees have to be happy because of this, because of that. We have to put objectives, clear objectives, and for people to work towards this goals. And here's how we're going to track it. And you can see all of this cooking, all of this, it's already working, it's already in place. So if you fly into the future for maybe 10, maybe 15 years, and think how the systems that we're trying to implement are going to be implemented in 10 to 15 years. After 10 years of maturing them, after making sure nurturing them and making sure that they're big and strong and robust. Think about companies like Amazon, like Microsoft, like SAP, and these mammoths of companies with every single process already gamified. And at the same time, these little small companies and these little small schools or this keeping track of everything, like making sure that all the players are playing and enjoying and they are built into this game, not just expecting everything to be done for them, but actually engaged into playing and into developing them. I know this is happening. This is not just what I think it will. I know this is happening um, because you can see it. I mean, every conference we're in, people come in and they start sharing their stuff and they're sharing all their success stories, and you realize that this is the way. And I know that sounds a lot like The Mandalorian, but this is the way. It is working. It's already happening, and we have at least I can tell you maybe at least 1,000 different examples of companies who have been doing this for 10 years, and they have been so successful in the process that it's booming. Um, and the beauty of it is that it's not that I would say like um, it's not just for show off. They're actually doing it with deep thought of what the users end up gaining from it. So that's how I see the future. That's what I think it's going to be like. We are looking into a gamified future where everybody is going to be able to enjoy every activity, regardless of the points, regardless of the badges, and absolutely indefinitely, regardless of those leaderboards.